Judges at the European Court of Human Rights have found Russia responsible of human rights abuses in Ukraine and the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. Russia has fired a barrage of hundreds of projectiles overnight, including cruise and ballistic missiles, in its largest aerial attack against Ukraine to date.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his latest meeting with Donald Trump focused on freeing Israeli hostages and the possibility of a ceasefire.
Ursula von der Leyen will be weakened after the vote of no confidence, regardless of the outcome, expert tells Euronews.
French authorities raided the headquarters of the far-right National Rally Party, probing alleged violations of campaign finance laws. Judges at the European Court of Human Rights have found Russia responsible of human rights abuses in what is the first international recognition since the start of the war. The case was brought forward by Ukraine before the top European court's governing body moved to expel the Kremlin following the launch of its all-out war in Ukraine. The court also ruled that Russia was behind the downing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. That, too, was the first time an international court has found Moscow responsible for the 2014 incident. The Boeing plane was flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur when it was shot down by Russian missiles, killing all 298 passengers, of which 196 were Dutch. Judges at the top European court are set to rule on a total of 4 cases brought forward by the Netherlands and Ukraine against Russia. The decisions are expected to be largely symbolic. Russia has fired a massive barrage of drones and missiles against Ukraine overnight, the largest offensive since it launched its full-scale invasion. Ukraine says the Kremlin fired more than 700 projectiles targeting mainly the western city of Lutsk. The barrage featured Shahed-type drones as well as cruise and air ballistic missiles. Ukrainian air forces say they've shot down almost 300 drones and were able to intercept over 400 others using electronic jammers. All 7 cruise missiles were also intercepted by Ukraine's air defenses. Ballistic missiles, however, did manage to strike their targets. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says Moscow's attacks highlight their unwillingness to end the war. He has called on allies to ramp up pressure on Russia to force them into peace.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his latest meeting with US President Donald Trump focused on efforts to free Israeli hostages.
קיימתי היום פגישה נוספת עם הנשיא טראמפ בבית הלבן, ואחר כך פגישה קצרה עם סגן הנשיא ואנס. אנחנו התמקדנו במאמצים לשחרור חטופינו. אנחנו לא מרפים מזה לרגע, וזה מתאפשר בגלל הלחץ הצבאי שמפעילים חיילינו הגיבורים.
Trump has ramped up the pressure on Netanyahu to move towards a US-backed ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip, where he described the conditions as hell. The plan includes a 60-day pause in fighting, more aid, and the release of hostages. Israel and Hamas are holding indirect talks, but both sides remain far apart on the terms of lasting peace. So far, a breakthrough remains out of reach.
Law professor Alberto Alemanno said EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen will be left weakened, regardless of the result of a no-confidence motion in the European Parliament on Thursday.
About text message. And there's a choice here.
More and more citizens will be asking, wow, she should be the person negotiating a trade deal with the Trump administration affecting the European economy. She should continue having a seat at the table in the Ukrainian-Russian peace talks, which are on and off. In other words, many more people are going to be questioning whether she's the right person for the job in these incredibly difficult geopolitical circumstances in which the Union tried to speak with one voice.
So allow me to start.
Alemanno said the vote of no confidence will constrain von der Leyen's ability to control the EU Parliament during the rest of her mandate.
Military trucks rolling through Bergamo at night.
I don't necessarily expect Ursula von der Leyen to come away with this vote, even if it is rejected, the motion, strengthened. No, I think that if everything goes well, she will stay where she is, that means being increasingly scrutinized by all political parties, both from the far right and the center left, and therefore our political margin will rather reduce as opposed to actually gain further power within the European Council.
Member States.
The motion was signed by 77 far-right MEPs who criticized von der Leyen for sending secret messages to Pfizer CEO about vaccines, for allegedly misspending recovery funds and financing of NGOs.
Between democracy.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz received NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte in Berlin on Wednesday as Germany celebrates its 70th anniversary of joining the alliance. Both Merz and Rutte underlined their commitment to Ukraine and said that the priority is to bring about a ceasefire with Russia as soon as possible. The NATO Secretary-General said that Europe is not producing enough military supplies and welcomed the increase in defence spending the Allies agreed to a couple of weeks ago in The Hague. Germany is expected to take a leading role within the alliance. As tensions between France and Germany mount over fighter jets, Merz said discussions are ongoing but highlighted that the project could be a good collaboration between France, Spain and Germany if they can reach an agreement. Rutte also spoke about China's ambitions and said World War III could occur within the next 3 to 7 years, with Russia being able to launch a full-scale attack against NATO territory to keep Europe busy whilst China attacks Taiwan. As global conflicts continue to heat up, NATO has been making big promises in terms of military and defence expansion. But can it deliver? Liv Stroud in Berlin for Euronews.
French authorities raided the headquarters of the far-right National Rally Party on Wednesday as part of a probe into alleged violations of campaign finance laws. The Paris prosecutor's office said the investigation is examining whether the party used illegal loans to finance its campaigns between 2020 and 2024. The investigation concerns possible acts of money laundering and the use of forged documents during their 2022 presidential and 2024 European election races. The National Rally's president Jordan Bardella called the action a new harassment campaign. He said armed forces stormed the party building on Wednesday morning and seized emails, documents, and accounting data. The party has surged in popularity in recent years, becoming France's largest single parliamentary party. The raid comes about 3 months after the party's co-founder and de facto leader, Marine Le Pen, and other officials were convicted of embezzling EU funds. The recent surge in illegal migration to the island of Crete has led the Greek government to take stricter measures to tackle the problem. On Wednesday, Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis announced after a meeting with Minister of Migration Policy Thanos Plevris a series of emergency measures to deal with the crisis. The Greek government will temporarily suspend the processing of asylum applications for migrants arriving from Africa, initially for 3 months.
Όσοι μετανάστες λοιπόν εισέρχονται παράνομα στην χώρα θα συλλαμβάνονται και θα κρατούνται.
The second decision is to establish 1 or possibly 2 permanent closed detention centers for migrants on the island of Crete. Mitsotakis also said the government's discussions with Libya are ongoing. He also warned that the Greek armed forces are willing to cooperate with Libyan authorities in order to prevent boats from leaving from Libya.
Η ελληνική κυβέρνηση στέλνει ένα μήνυμα αποφασιστικότητας ότι η δίωδος προς την Ελλάδα κλείνει και το στέλνει προς όλους τους διακινητές. Και προς όλους τους δυνητικούς πελάτες τους, ότι τα χρήματα τα οποία δαπανούν ενδεχομένως να είναι παντελώς χαμένα, διότι πια θα είναι πολύ πιο δύσκολο από ό,τι ήταν μέχρι σήμερα να μπορεί κανείς να φτάσει στην Ελλάδα δια της θαλασσίας οδού.
The Greek premier's remarks were made after more than 2,000 migrants landed on Crete since the weekend. The Mediterranean country has seen a spike in illegal migration recently, with more than 60,000 believed to have arrived last year a 25% increase from 2023 figures.
Vote is closed.
In a shocking European Parliament plenary session, it's been decided that far-right climate skeptics are to lead efforts on the EU's climate targets for 2040. The Patriots for Europe group have been given the capacity to draft the text, which intends to question the aims of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 90%.
Beh, noi ci siamo presentati alle elezioni dicendo che volevamo cambiare il Green Deal e le politiche ambientali ideologiche portate avanti in questi anni e ora è il momento concreto per farlo.
The group, which includes France's National Rally, Hungary's Fidesz, and Italy's League parties, have long been critical of the European Green Deal. The Parliament's ecologists believe that giving this role to the far right threatens the credibility of the European Union and its climate commitments.
Significa che molto probabilmente non avremo una legge sul clima e anche dei target da poter portare alla COP di Belém e che saremo molto molto deboli in sede di negoziazione. Non saremo i leader di questa COP, non decideremo l'ambizione climatica in questa conferenza delle parti e tutto questo purtroppo è proprio per colpa del Partito Popolare. Il Partito Popolare che ieri ha fatto sì che l'estrema destra prendesse la leadership, la relazione sulla legge del clima.
While the Patriots group will have a definite influence on the discussions, it will not be able to prevent the other groups from reaching an agreement on the final text.